At the point at which I recall you started making films, you were already known, you'd already established a reputation as an academic in the traditional sense. You know, you write, you research, you publish the word in the written sense. Why film?
Well, again, in retrospect, when I saw Kenneth Clark's Civilization, which I think is 1969, it was so grand and beautiful, the history of the West. And I love ideas, I love books, and I marveled at it. I'd never seen a real documentary before. I had seen the year before, in 1968, Bill Cosby did Black History Lost, Stolen, or Strayed. And that was my introduction, as I said last night, to Black history, which really, you know, lit me on fire. But Kenneth Clark was doing the history of the West, going to museums and walking around. And then I saw Jacob Bronowski do The Ascent of Man. Then I became friends with John Kenneth Galbraith's son, Jamie, at Cambridge. And he took me back to meet his father. And his father was making a PBS series called The Age of Uncertainty. I went outside of the Galbraith house, and I stood there and looked at this beautiful house, and I thought, if I could ever live on a street like this, teach at a place like Harvard, which is where he was a professor, and make documentary films, I will die and go to heaven. And that was 1975. And in 1996, I bought the house 2 doors from John Kenneth Galbraith. And by then I was making my second documentary. What happened, I moved to Boston in 1991, and the great Henry Hampton, the greatest black documentarian ever, who did Eyes on the Prize. How many of you have seen Eyes on the Prize? And Hamp called me and invited me to, well, it turned out it's his building called Blackside, his film company. And it was like crack. You know, when I walked in there, I thought, he had all these producers and editing rooms, and I thought, wow, man. And by the end of the day, I knew I wanted this career, but I had no idea how I would get it. In fact, I said to him, not so subtly, well, perhaps we could do a film together. And he said, sure, I'll make you an advisor. I go, no, maybe I could be in it. And he goes, oh, we'll make you a talking head, you know, one of those people who never looks at the camera, looks off to the side because the assistant producer is interviewing you, right? I wanted to be the man. I wanted to look at the camera. I wanted to do an essay about the black experience. I wanted to own it. And he said, I don't make that kind of documentary. He said, not to hurt your feelings, but he said, nobody black in the whole industry makes that kind of first person. And you think about it, it's true. So 3 years later, you know, as I said last night, be careful what you wish for. I got a letter out of the blue from a woman named Jane Root, an English producer, had her own production company. And she had seen me on a book talk show, a late night show in London. She's in bed, she said, she was watching it, and she said, I'm gonna make him a presenter, as they say in England. And she wrote to me, I thought it was a joke. And then she kept writing, then she kept calling, and then she flew all the way from London. I was presenting the Anisfield Book Awards in Cleveland. And she flew just to have breakfast with me, and she said, I could put you in front of a camera. You just have to trust me. And so we did this series. It was a series on BBC called The Great Rail Journeys. And they get a celebrity to ride 3,000 miles on trains with a film crew. And they said, they wanted me to go to South America or Japan. Now, I like South America, I love Japan. But I said, I would only do it under 2 conditions. If you let me go to Africa, and I want to end my journey in the village where I lived when I was 19 years old, and if you let me take my 2 little girls, who were 12 and 14. And they said, yes to A, no to B. They say adolescent girls, you know, children, they're going to act out, it's going to be a nightmare. You could get all kinds of diseases. I mean, this is Africa, you know, it's not Cella's first class, you know, transportation. And so they even sent a producer to our house and had dinner with us to see what our interaction was. And I told my kids, if you act out, you're dead, you know, like this is my big opportunity. And they were cool. And the result was...
See, you're lucky you have 2 girls, no offense.
Yeah.
Because that's why he'd be like, really?
Yeah, they go, yes, Daddy, no, Dad. I'm like, who are these kids, you know? And we went back to that village, and I had left there 25 years before, and the whole village welcomed me back. But the conceit of the film, which he couldn't script, was me, the professor of African-American studies, trying to introduce his mixed children, because their mother is white.
Did your wife go on this trip?
Yes, she went, but
did?
she wasn't one of the 3 characters in the thing. And for me, trying to introduce them to their African heritage, and for them looking at me and listening to my little lectures and saying, my heritage is in Lexington, Massachusetts, thank you very much. And the Guardian of London reviewed it, and the headline was, National Lampoon Goes to Africa. And it was honest. And the reception was so good that the BBC asked me if I could do a multi-part series, what would I do? And I wanted to do The Wonders of the African World.